YouTube and you found this show by going to Facebook. And we're here to talk about the child protection services because it seems to be an area of government service that's gone corrupt. And I'll tell you about that in a few minutes here. We definitely we have guests from time to time that appear on the show and talk about their case. We had a guest 15 minutes ago said that they're logging on, but we not yet see them, so they may come into view. Now, what I want you to do is first I welcome all of you. They're going through excruciating time with CPS. The Child Protection Services has been really bad towards me. I've had over 14 years of dealing with them, and I've talked to over 100 some people across the country. And the one thing that we all have in common is CPS is corrupt in the sense they are trafficking our children. And it's a $1 billion business is why. They want the money. They don't want to do family reunification. They just want the money. And I'm sad to say that. That's a horrible thing to say. Now, there's several ways you can participate in this podcast. You can text me a comment about your situation. Make sure to include your name and your city and state you're calling from. If you're from outside the U.S., you're perfectly welcome to text a comment. I've had people from Australia, Canada, and the United Kingdom, and even Ghana mention comments about their situation in CPS. It's a worldwide issue. And so, you know, text me a comment, put your name, city, and state or country and city, and something about your case would help me. Like, this involves 2 boys, 1 girl. This is a second time around for me with CPS, my first time, and that your allegations, what you've been charged with, are accused of. And then if you're in a relationship, if you have a partner, a spouse, a marriage, whatever relationship you have. So that gives me an idea when you talk to me that I can understand your case a little bit better and help you. I'm not an attorney, but I'm a guy that is a caring, loving father that wants to help out others and not have to go through what I went through of CPS destroying my life, taking one of my 3 children away for good, brainwashed them, had me lose my home fighting them. It's really sad what they can do. It's really sad. So besides comment, we have a guest from time to time. We had one scheduled today. And if you want to be a guest right now on the show, you can talk here for over 55 minutes. All you need to do is call in to my office phone, 626-698-0990. It works from when I'm on this show to the end of my show. My shows I do 14 shows a week, Monday through Sunday, first at 10 in the morning, and the second one at 7 at night. The last an hour, it's all Pacific Standard Time. And I try to put down helpful information that helps others with trouble with the CPS. So please call in 626-698-0990. If right now isn't the time for you to talk and you'd like to talk a later date, you can call my other office phone, 888-888-6582. And when you speak to the office there, tell them that Bob Pace sent you and that you'd like to schedule a time to be on the show, like Wednesday morning, Wednesday evening, Tuesday morning, Tuesday evening. So all you have to do is say morning or AM and what day, and they'll figure a show for you. And a producer will help you. Now, if you want to email instead of calling, you can email the producer. It's gracevincentwdavis.com, and she will help you get on the show, give you the link, and so forth. We use StreamYard.com application, so it's a really good one for putting several people on the show at once. But I'd like you very much to be a guest on my show. It adds flavor, and I love to see you down the road. Now, I'm going to come up with the very first rule. The very first rule is you need an attorney. Think of open heart surgery. You're going to get open heart surgery. You're going to have a doctor. He's a professional. He's trained. He's gone to medical school, done an internship. He's probably been a doctor for quite some time before he does something really critical. Now, CPS is the same way. It's a very critical agency. It's very tricky and it's hard to navigate. That's why you need an attorney. You need an attorney to help you navigate through CPS and avoid all the pitfalls and stuff, because it's a very complex agency, especially when they lie and they're very deceitful. They're not transparent. They're not your friend. They're not your friend. This attorney can give you help. He's part of a law firm, Vincent W. Davis Associates, that produces the show. There's many attorneys there. There's criminal attorneys and attorneys that deal with immigration and so forth. But the area that you're dealing with is called dependency court, family law. So you need an attorney with that background. And this Mr. Davis, Vincent Davis, is that attorney. And he has a long history of fighting CPS and winning and getting the cases. Also, he is a trial attorney, and he has fought CPS in civil suits, so he knows he's not afraid to fight them. And you should really talk to him. You should call in to 888-888-6582 and ask to set up a consultation with Mr. Davis. For 30 minutes, it's only $50, $49.99. But it's well worth all the pennies you spend. And you can ask him about anything that really be helpful. So you need to look at that attorney to be, after your consultation, you probably want to retain him. He's well worth it. I retained him. And he's an excellent attorney. He's a go-getter. He will work in Southern California, Northern California, and all the 50 states. His retainer fee is based on the distance, the complexity of the case, and how long the case has been going on. So he does, charge a fee, but he's very reasonable with his fees. So that is rule number one, to have an attorney. Why do you think you need an attorney? Because they're tricksters. They're bad people. The social workers are not your friend. CPS is not your friend. And it's really hard to deal with someone that is... The agency is so bad that it is such a hard thing to deal with. Now, CPS. What is CPS? You're probably asking yourself that. Or how did you get involved? Well, it all depends on allegations. Allegations will come in either by a layperson or by a professional. And they just phone call them in. They don't have to fill out any paperwork or put their name to what they're attesting to, which I think they should. I think any complaint should be a formal complaint with, a letter and their signature on it. That way, if there's any problem with wrong allegations, you can catch them. Now, when an allegation is made, either by a professional or layperson, CPS has 24 hours to investigate. That's required by law that any allegations against a minor needs to respond within 24 hours. Um, that is the first condition. They have to start the investigation within 24 hours. They can't let it go beyond. It's a law. Now, these allegations are made by lay people or professionals. A professional would be a teacher, a doctor, a policeman, a nurse. A lay person would be relatives, your in-laws, your family, your friends. Those are layperson. People that work with children are required by law to report neglect and abuse with our children. And then people that are not working with children don't have that same clause. So it was really a hard thing when it happened to me because my allegations were untrue. They were a series of my in-laws were saying stuff that mom and dad were doing was not true. They were intimidating and they were trying to get our kids. They wanted to adopt our kids. Her parents never liked the idea of me being married to her. They didn't show up at the wedding. And it's bad. It was really bad. They didn't care. I mean, it really was sad. It was a sad thing there because my wife really knew how her parents were and she, was really screwed up by that. So one of the first things that they do, they try to go out and investigate and they want to come and do a home inspection. Well, unless you open up the home for a home inspection, it's one of those. Um, the next rule I want to talk about is your notebook. You need to take notes if you get involved with CPS. You need to keep track of what's going on so you refer to it later. This may go longer. They have technically 45 days to bring it to trial to dependency court. Your case should be over in 45 days. New York is 60 days. Some states are different. But they should have, your trial within that day in California within 45 days. Now, what I mentioned about taking notes is that you're going to find out there's lots of things going on and you'll forget it if you don't. That's rule number 2 is you go out there and get yourself a notebook. You pay for a notebook with reams of paper and dividers wherever you want to do it. And you just start off with the first incident. And you want to write down the date and time the incident took place, the people that are involved, the social workers, the police, the children, whoever is involved. Then you want to put what the allegation was, the incident. What was the incident about? Was it to take your child away? Whatever it is, so you put that third uh, bit of information. Then you go out. Then you go out and fill that out and keep it readily handy because your fourth thing should be the outcome. Every incident will have an outcome. It may not come right away. You may have to wait a month or two. My case lasted 3 months. I was hassled them for 5 years by wrongful accusations. Every time my relatives would call in, they'd make a new allegation and the social worker had to respond. That notebook and that attorney, those are rules 1 and 2. Now, a third rule is that when they do the investigation, they're wanting to come out and inspect your home. That is a no-no. When you deal with the social workers, be pleasant with them, be nice to them, but it should always be yes, no kind of answers. No. You might want to say, please contact my attorney if you have an attorney. And if you don't have one, you can say, so please contact my attorney. And by the time they get the ball rolling, your attorney should be up and running too. Now, rule number 3 is that when the social worker comes out to inspect your home, you don't want, rule number 3, you don't want them in your home. You don't want the police in your home, and you don't want the social worker in your home. They have to have a court order. They have to have a warrant before they come to your home. If you give them permission, then they will use that against you. They'll find things that you didn't think were a problem, but they think it's problematic. So rule number 3 is you do not let them in your home, don't let a policeman home, and you do not talk to them. It's yes, no kind of answers. Yes, I am Bob Pace. No, there's nothing going on. You don't have to give it really an explanation. You just say yes, no, yes, no. The reason being they'll use it against you. There'll be so many times they'll use things against you that you need to, excuse me a second while I drink some water. You need to protect your children because they're greedy. They want their child because they want the money. They are doing child trafficking. I saw it in my case. My 3 children were taken the day that they used deception tactics to get in my home. And they didn't have an extreme case of neglect or abuse. And there's a health and welfare code 300B that talks about what they can do, what they can't do. Let me go over that a little bit with you. Trying to find that. See how you. Here it is. A child comes under Welfare Institution Code Section 300B if the child has suffered substantial risk that the child will suffer seriously physical harm or illness as a result of the failure or inability of his or her parent or guardian to be adequately supervising or protecting the child, or by the inability of the parent or guardian to provide regular care for the child due to the parent's or guardian's mental illness, development disability, or substance abuse. That's drugs. And it's also sad to say, too, is that they're bad. They want the money. They want to take your children away. The child shall continue to be a dependent child pursuant to the subdivision so as long as necessary to protect the child from risk of suffering serious physical harm and illness. Now, there is concern for the child's best interests. If a social service agency, the child protection part, believes a child at risk, they'll investigate and possibly detain the child. Sometimes in an emergency situation, the social service agency would detain the child and then investigate if detention is necessary. Detention is where they stay in court, where they stay away from the parent because it's something the parent might have done bad. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking that what your case was not bad or something like that, and I agree with you. I watched a horror story where they described a child that was in Ohio. Um, it was an infant child. I think that child was less than 1 years of age or a little bit older than that. But they have those toys they sit in, and they have all these devices in front of them they can play with, and it's got kind of a little seat to sit in. Well, somehow, apparently, a mother decided to go on vacation for 10 to 12 days and left the child there in that seat. And of course, the child died of dehydration, lack of food. The diaper wasn't changed. There was maggots in the diaper. And on top of that, you know, uh, she got E. coli through an open sore and stuff, and she died a horrible death. She suffered on that because when the mother came back, she called for help and they tried to revive her, but the child had been dead for days. I don't know, and I don't. That to me is why it's important to have child protection services. It's important that we need to protect our children from neglect or abuse. That child was neglected. That child had no food, no water, no diaper change, nothing. And, the mother had terrible parenting skills. And that's another thing, too. Some of the things that we do, we may not realize that are bad towards the kids. Like I talked to one mother that was trying to teach the child to stay away from the stove. So she took the child's hand and stuck it in the flame, so it was hot. That was wrong. The child went to school, the teacher saw it, called CPS, and then her child was taken from her because she was abusing the child. You don't teach a child, that a fire is hot by sticking their hand in there. Again, that's what parenting classes. I know no one's born with a manual about how to raise children or how to even get married and have children or there's a lot of things that were born where you learn from others and stuff like that. I don't know where she learned that it's okay to stick a child's hand in the flame to see if it was hot. I mean, that was sad. So these cases are out there, and it is needed. The problem is there's so many of these cases that aren't warranted. Mine wasn't warranted at all to be involved in CPS. It was a simple thing where what happened in my case, I was going through a perfect storm. I lost half of my retirement. I found out that I had a predatory loan on my home. Um, then I lost my job, and when I lost my job, it was very traumatic because I was age 60 when I lose a job, and that's hard to do. Yes, I have a younger family. I have two families. I have a young family and an older family. And my young family, at the time, um, at the time of CPS taking them, they were 9, 12, and 15. And it was really sad. I don't know how to explain it to you that how they could so quickly ruin our children. They have all kinds of problems there. When I was due to letting go in my home, I said a pretty storm brewing, laid off work. Well, my in-laws were writing all these false allegations, not writing them, but calling in every day for 5 years. And CPS finally got enough of it, so they said, we got to catch them in the act. We're going to have a home inspection unannounced. The only problem is they didn't have a search warrant. And at that time, I didn't know you're supposed to have one. And so they wanted to see inside the home. There was something horrible in the home. The kids were away at school, so I knew it wasn't something what the kids are involved in. But it was a terrible, terrible, terrible incident. So they kept making the complaints and the complaints and the complaints month after month, year after year. And so then the storm brewing. The last thing on the storm was my parents were dying, and that's what took me down. When my parents were dying, they had their belongings. They want me to take their belongings and try to distribute to relatives. I was the closest one around. The only problem is they had a lot of things, and I should have put them in storage, but I had no money for storage. I was sorting through them, and it was hard. I should have put it in storage, but I didn't have the funds at the time. But, you know, this CPS wanted to see my home so bad, they tricked a policeman, said, you need to get this person to come to his home. And getting the police involved is a bad thing because they do it a lot. Because the police, in turn, will file a report, and the district attorney will file the same charges that CPS is charging. So now you have a criminal case, could be a felony or misdemeanor, and you have CPS's case, all because CPS calls in a policeman because they want to do a legal search of your home. I mentioned there had to be a warrant. That warrant signed order by the court, by the judge, and it has to detail what they can do, who the person is, and what they're searching for. And so, in my case, that's how they got me to open up my home. And unbeknownst to me was the magnitude of my family's belongings would be an impact on my children, but that's what they're basing their thing on. And to this day, I still don't know how they base it on there because boxes don't fly, furniture doesn't fly, so I don't know how they would harm my children. But it was a really hard thing to swallow because the policeman said I had to come back with him. The detective actually called a black and white, and they convinced me I need to come back with them because they wanted to search the home. I did not know. If I knew the law, I would say the same thing to the soldier I said to the policeman, that you're not entitled to inspection of my home. And you know, um, it was very, very, very hard. So when the policeman told me to follow him, I did because it was a detective and he was really serious, he said. So when I got there, out in front of my home was these two social workers, five firemen, three two code enforcement officers, and three social workers, two uniformed policemen, and the detective all stand in front of my yard outside the gate. And I could not believe that they all wanted to see my home. They were looking for things. They were purposely looking for things because they got tired of me because I kept showing them and telling them I have nothing there to hide. And they didn't like that. And I should have called rule number one of the attorney. I should have called the attorney. Even if I didn't have one signed up, you can still call an attorney. And, and you can tell them that you have an attorney, that you need to talk to my attorney first before I proceed. Because you're in a horrible agency that has lied, that has our children, at our feet. Um, not have our children lie so that the children won't want to be with us. They want to alienate the children, which is wrong. Alienation is wrong. And CPS is very good at alienating the children from the parents. So it's really, 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 really sad. So they proceeded to go through my home. I originally had my belongings, tidied up and out front of the garage, but I live in a private neighborhood and they said they wanted to put away. So I put away the items, then wrote up my expertise. So they're there. So I had my young son in tow. He was in elementary school. He was 9 at the time. And they went through with their combat gear and boots and stuff and messed up the home, brought dirt into the home. It was sad. It was really, really sad. Broke a chair looking out the window, put dirty footprints on the white chair. And all they found was my parents' belongings. They said that could create a problem with the kids. And I was really surprised. Um, when they did go through and say that my belongings, my parents' belongings, were stacked too high or furniture was stacked and it could endanger the kids. The firemen are busy measuring the the fire alarm to make sure it was installed right. The code enforcement looking to see if there was a lock on the back door, lock on the outside fence around the pool deck. They wanted to see that it was all nicely presentable and so forth. Um, so they proceeded to go through the home, and they also said it was so bad that they had to take my children to a shelter. They pulled the two children out of their school, took my son that was in tow with me, and said it was bad. Now I like to address that because, um, it wasn't bad, so bad that they had to think that way. But let me see if I can pull up here. Now I cannot stress how important that CPS cases, how they work. There's a lot of important information that parents and caregivers need to be aware of. Now, when CPS comes to your home, they are there investigating a claim that was made against you. So they'll do what's called a CP investigation, which is the first step to juvenile dependency, the case being opened against you and your children be removed from your home. You want to take the accusations seriously. When you feel the claims are made against you are false, frivolous, or even malicious, you should still take the CPS investigation seriously. The social worker can take your child if they find evidence supporting their claim, but you do have rights throughout this process. For instance, the California Penal Code protects the identity of any person who makes a claim, stating the information must be kept confidential. You want to be very careful, as I say, choose your words. That's why it's yes, no answer. You got to remain calm, and when you're interacting with the police officers and social workers, anything you say will be used in an investigation as evidence. So it is best way not to say nothing at all. They also will believe the allegations as true until you're proven innocent. It's different than any other courts. Any other courts, you're innocent till you're proven guilty. But with CPS matters, you're guilty till you're proven innocent. Now, I mentioned something about don't invite them into your home unless they have a search warrant. They don't get permission from you, they don't have a search warrant, then what they see in the home will have to wait for another day. You need to call that attorney. And what they're trying to do is find out if it's safe for the kids to remain in the home. Now, if a claim made against you is for any kind of physical abuse, you want to get the child to obtain a physical examination by your doctor, by their doctor, not by the doctor's CPS, as soon as possible. The pediatrician will evaluate the medical history. Now, child abuse is the third leading cause of death in children between 1 and 4 years of age. And almost 20% of the child homicide victims have been contacted with healthcare professionals within a month of their death. Therefore, family physicians are in the ideal position to detect and intervene in cases of suspected child maltreatment. So, assessment for physical abuse involves evaluation of historical information and physical examination findings, as well as any radiographic or laboratory studies made. If indicated, the history should be obtained in a non accusation manner and should include details of any injury or incidents. So, when there's some type of abuse going on, you want to make sure your child sees your pediatrician, not the CPS's one. So, it was happening so quick for me. It was so hard to swallow. I mean, I should have done my rule number one, contact an attorney, but I didn't. I didn't do rule number two, didn't take the time with the notebook or writing about it. And rule number three, I broke it. I would let them in, talking to them because I thought I could trust them. I thought they're legitimate. I thought the police and CPS, I know they're working cahoots, you know. Um, the Child Protection Services receives 3.4 million referrals involving alleged maltreatment of approximately 6.2 million children. Now, that's a lot of allegations, and a lot of them came from professionals that have to report because the law is there. The law is there. So, you're going to see that your children are taken out because they say there's excessive or could be neglect or abuse done. That's why they're taken from. And technically, they need a warrant to take your child. That warrant is so important. I wish I knew that. The one thing to remember is that don't let them in your home or take your children unless they have a warrant. So many of the parents call in and they are losing their children in the medical rooms right after giving birth. Somehow CPS thinks it's okay to take children from the mothers before they even breastfeed them. And they said they're supposedly trying to protect the children. Sometimes I think they're trying to do more harm to children. They're having a hard time trying to protect the children. And so, um, so it's very, very important that you say very little and the exercise right. If a CPS worker comes in your room where you're giving birth, you tell the nurse, the doctor, please have the person wait in the lobby. They're not supposed to be there. You know, it's a medical place where you're having a child, and they're notorious trying to use that as a trick there. And I think that is really, really wrong. I think they need to um, back away and be a social worker, which is called family reunification in there. That's where they're supposed to help the parents get back with their children if they have a hiccup or something in there, not to be used by um, in laws at their own discretion trying to destroy a family, which they may have done so in the process. Faith, welcome. I'm glad to have a comment from you. Can you tell me what city and state um, you're from, Faith? Faith, do you know what city or state you're from? Did you have a question? You want to write in a comment for a question, or do you want to be a guest on the show and talk about your case? You can call in at 626 698 0990. That's my office phone. And there's about 20 minutes left of the show if you want to talk there. I'm glad that Faith, you said hi. You want to tell me about your case, what it involves, your questions? So we have someone that is commented in. I don't know where they're from or what they are wanting here, but I hope there's something I can help you with, Faith. They are a Facebook friend there. It looks like. So we are live, and if you want to call in to be a guest on the show, it's 626 698 0990, and I can put you on speakerphone. And you can be live and talk about your case. Also, what kind of allegations you're going through, what's going on in your life with your CPS troubles. If you could talk to me, Faith, that'd be great. I just sent a message to Faith. Can you hear me, Faith? Um, I want to make sure you can hear me. So, any of you that are listening that want to talk, please call in at 626 698 0990. I can put you live on the show. And if you don't want to talk at this time, would like to talk at one of my other shows, call 888-888-6582. You speak to the office and see if you could tell them what day or time, like a Monday evening, Monday morning. I'm on twice a day. So, um, Faith, are you still there? I asked a question. Can you hear me, Faith? Um, okay. Anyway, um, when you call in, I can put you live and you can talk about your case. If you'd like to call in a later time, you can call 888-888-6582 and schedule a time that you'd like to be on the show. If you would rather do an email, you can email our show producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com and ask, ask a moment. Um, you could be on. I mean, that is. There's about 15 minutes left of the show. Now, if you can't be on, but you like to be on a later date, you want to call 888-888-6582 and schedule a time, a morning time or afternoon time, and you can be on the show. You can also email me too to Grace at vincentwdavis.com, and that tell me you want to be on the show. Just mention my name, and our producer Grace would take care of it on that. So I'm waiting for something from Faith. I've asked several times, but it doesn't sound like either Faith is here. And she said hi, which I'm glad that she did. anything. I would like to remind everybody about rule number 1. Get an attorney. Get Vincent Davis. Set up a strategy session with him, and he will strategize what you can do and what you can't do and how to fight CPS and so forth. Um, um, so when our kids were taken to a shelter that first day back in 2015, I was 65 at the time. Very traumatic to have our children ripped out of school. They didn't know what was going on. We came that night to the shelter. They said they put them for the safety. We found the shelter not to be safe. We found it was next door to a prison, and the play area was infested with bees. There was beehives out there, so they safely couldn't do so. And it was close to the dependency court. The place was not clean. It was not organized. There was no protection there, and the food was terrible. But we went and visited our children there to show them that we cared and loved for them. But they were clueless of why they were being involved and why mom and dad were being involved. Um, so this shelter, we visited with the children. We tried our best to calm them down, but the food was terrible, and they were so discouraged. We had a family meeting where they determined where the children will stay. It's a meeting with the social workers, it's a safety plan meeting, and you're supposed to make a list of all the family members they could stay with, because it's better to have them stay there than in CPS's hands, because they will abuse the children. They have been abused in the past. Also, this time I'd like to talk about ICWA. You're probably wondering what in the world is ICWA. Um, ICWA, let me get it here, is the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1979, I think it is here. Hold on, let me get it here. Well, I had it. I'll have to pull it up again. I've lost it here. Okay. This Indian Child Welfare Act was passed in 79 to help out children that are caught up in CPS. So many of the tribe their children being taken away, that they passed an act, a law that says the CPS must first try to see if the tribe will take care of the child before they take them to foster care. And the police would return the child and so forth. So what you have to remember here, this is for Native American children. If you're registered as a Lakota Sioux or a Cherokee or a Crow or wherever you're registered at, or you could be registered, then the Indian tribe will take care of you instead of CPS workers. They don't want money, so they're not going to be after the money situation. And sometimes it's better to have the children handled by the tribe than it is to have them involved with CPS and the foster care parents. So I'm telling you that anytime, and this is a lot of children in California, Indian children, there's a lot of Alaskan families and children and so forth. And what was happening was these kids were being put in to foster care too fast, and the parents were left in the dark. So they passed this law so the Indians would take care of their own, which is a good thing. They will help you get your family back if there's been hiccups or something, and they will help you. And it's not a money making business. So the social worker will help you contact. Well, they'll contact the tribe, see if you are registered or could be registered, but they won't take your child from you. They'll put the Indian tribe in charge of them. Now, the court will appoint a special lawyer to represent you, and that's probably the public defender. If you live in a tribal community, a ranchera, or a reservation, the tribe may also have a tribal advocate and other resources to help you. And so there's a lot of information about this ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, and you can find out more from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the BIA. So it is something that is open to the Indian families, Indian children. They were the original immigrants before the Vikings and the Europeans came. American Indians settled in North America and moved down south in there. So that's one of the things, besides saying with a family relative, they could maybe be taken care of by a tribe. So I'm saying that. Then after your meeting, they determined, like with our kids, we put them in my wife's sisters and her husband's family for watching them. But it was too much for them to watch because this went on longer than 45 days and went on 3 years, and it was sad. It was just really, really sad. So your 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 two choice list of family members or the ICWA, have the Indian tribe with their Indian children. But that's about all there is. The rest of it's going to be them going to put them in group homes and foster care. And they did after my in-laws that were trying to take care of them bailed on them. They were put into a group home next, and that was a terrible experience. The group home, it was being run by Boys Town, and Boys Town is usually dealing with kids that have no parents. It's very hard if there's parents that want to be actively involved in the kids. Boys Town, the people that train for them still need more training, but yeah, they need more. I forgot my train of thought there. Um, the children are number one, are in importance to you, and in a group home, they were taught not to love their parents, put their hands aside every time they visit. The parents would come to visit. Now we visited our children as much as we could, but it was kind of monitor visitation, meaning that there was somebody representing the CPS nearby, not necessarily watching in front of you. That's a more heavy monitor. There's different degrees of monitoring children, and they really they don't want you discussing the case or anything that leaves them in the dark, and that's wrong. That's wrong. That is totally, totally wrong. So, in the group home, my son was scolded for wanting to drink more on juice. My other son was refused study hours. He was put to bed early and didn't. He went to a private school that had a pretty good load of things to learn. So it was uh, it was definitely a bad experience at group home. And then I didn't think it getting better with foster care because they're very corrupt. You see, the hardest thing with fighting CPS is to weed through their corruptness and their lies. They're not transparent. They don't want the kids to know what's going on. They don't want the parents to know. They want to keep them in kind of limbo land. And it was really, 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 really hard because when they moved my young son to a foster care, It's getting so bad. And then her daughter wanted to be adopted. That was a tragic. Here's a daughter at 12 years of age that's been convinced that it's best to live without your mom and dad. Why? Because the foster care could give her Disneyland passes. We could no longer afford them because I lost my job. And on top of all that, she was brainwashed into thinking there was something wrong with dad and mom. And that was not the true thing. We loved our daughter. And for her to be brainwashed, to be alienated from her mom and dad was sad. At first, I never saw her when she was taken from our custody. They said that she didn't want to see me. They wouldn't give a reason or anything on that. And on top of that, they encourage that kind of thing. They don't they don't want to see family reunification. That's what's so difficult, so hard. Is they don't want family reunification. So you got to deal with that. That's a horrible thing to deal with. And I tried to fight them by writing emails and talking to the top dog, and their office in Southern California is huge. It's shaped out of futuristic. I mean, the building alone is state of the art. But um, we got through it. But she did divorce us. She sealed her birth certificate, changed her name, and didn't even look back. Now, we encourage her sons to see her still, so she's 21 now, and hopefully one day she'll want to see her mom and dad. She is divorced from her brothers and her grandparents, because when you divorce your mom and dad, you divorce the whole family. Um, um, I'm getting close to the end of the show here. I have about 2 minutes left, or 3 minutes, 2 minutes left, yeah. And I want to thank you all for listening. I know that you're hurting with your children. I still hurt today. And every day I talk about losing my daughter. She was in a Barbie world, a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. And these foster care parents could offer her season passes to Disneyland. I couldn't do it. I'd lost my job. And instead of them wanting to help us, they tore our family apart. It got worse and worse. So finally, I had to get an attorney. That was a smart thing to do, is get an attorney. But I want to thank you for listening. I want to see you all later tonight at 7 o'clock. Hopefully, some of you will call in or make appointments to be as a guest. I love to hear about your case. Good luck. Don't stop fighting for your kids. Remember what I said. Rule number one, get an attorney. Rule number two, do your notes. And rule number three, do not let the social workers into your home. Much success and happiness in the new year. And I thank you all for listening. God bless you. And this is Bob Pace, um, signing off.